An absolute shocking NBA trade from Saturday night. We've got a preview of the Super Bowl, an old friend from my Kansas City days, and the plan for Radio Row. It's time for your Sunday Pig Pie.
Your football Sunday has dwindled down to this. Just a bunch of busted bets and broken fantasy dreams. You need this, and we're here for you. Immediate reaction, big opinions, gang tackling. Be one with the channel. It's DA Sunday Pig Pie. Oink, oink, suckers.
All right, in the effort of full transparency, this is not a live show. I know that you guys want to make sure that you are always up to date on everything going on Watch DA Live related. However, at this moment, I should be in the air somewhere over Georgia or something, heading into New Orleans. Cross your fingers that I didn't get delayed or anything like that, because this is airing during my flight down to Super Bowl 59. So we have this on tape. We taped it earlier in the day. If something crazy happened up until now, that's a problem. But we are going to hopefully bet on the craziest thing happening was the Luka trade from last night. So we've got that ready to roll. Also, my friend Josh Klingler, who was my executive producer in Kansas City, now he is the sideline reporter of the Chiefs radio network. You see, the DA show coaching tree goes far and wide. He's going to join us coming up in a couple of minutes for the full preview and breakdown of the Chiefs in yet another Super Bowl, and trying to get to the bottom of why America is rooting against the Chiefs and how Kansas City became the villain somehow. So that's coming up. And, of course, as always, your Little Mo laugh of the day, which will be a Little Mo love of the day. We'll explain a little bit later on in the show. But that means I can't read through your comments at the moment. So you are always free to comment as this is airing as live. So all of the Watch the Aliens right now, chat away, type away. Unfortunately, I won't be able to read them live, but I will read them when I land and I go back to see how the show went. I promise. All right, let's start with this NBA blockbuster, because who thought they were going to wake up on Sunday morning and see Luka Doncic traded to the Los Angeles Lakers? Of all teams, the Lakers grab one of the biggest, brightest stars in the NBA. And for what? Now, I have a DA deep dive on this right here on the YouTube channel. So I knocked that out early Sunday morning, got that up there for you for instant reaction. Let me touch on that if you haven't seen it yet, and then add some more context to it. The biggest question I have, and I think many people have, is not why they traded Luka Doncic, although that certainly is a glaring question as well. My biggest question is, how do you not let the league know he's for sale? You know, you don't need me to tell you this, but when you have a 25-year-old mega superstar who's under contract, is eligible for the Supermax, which will keep him into contract with your franchise for even longer, you've just come off the NBA Finals with him, and he could win multiple MVPs before all is said and done. If you're gonna part ways with him, you should probably see what the market will hold, right? Let's just see what the market is going to bring back. If we're going to sell, let's make sure we absolutely max out. And there's just no way. There's just no way you could argue that somehow the Mavs got max value. Now, even if you think that Anthony Davis is a really good fit for the Mavericks, and even if you feel like defense, which is what their GM Nico Harrison said was the reason they did this, they wanted to get better defensively, even if you believe that is what drives all of this, you'd of course open something up like this to the rest of the league to see if the other 28 basketball teams, GMs, owners wanted to jump into the mix. If you had an incredibly valuable asset, which the Mavs did, and you were going to part ways with it, you certainly wouldn't sell it to your neighbor without getting it valued. You certainly wouldn't just push it off to a friend of yours before seeing what other buyers might spend on it. Unless you were doing a favor. That's the only way. Unless you were doing a favor. You can convince me, if you wanted to really rationalize this, that new ownership after Mark Cuban said, we don't think Luka Doncic is worth a supermax because he's not committed defensively, or because he's not committed to his conditioning, or because this year he's injured and he doesn't seem like he's rushing to get back. Now, I would disagree with that thinking, but that's at least a rationale. You could say, hey, coaches and front office felt that Luka's defense is such a problem, as we saw last year in the NBA Finals, that even as great as he is offensively, we'll never be able to legitimately win a championship because he doesn't take that side of the basketball seriously enough. This is a chance for us to get better in a weakness and make ourselves an improved basketball team. You can somehow wrap your mind around that if you had to. But what you simply can't is, if you're going to trade a generational star, of which a guy has major value to almost everybody in the NBA, that you wouldn't ask everybody in the NBA, well, what would you give us? You wouldn't shop them around. Brian Windhorst went on ESPN and said that was the common theme all night and morning long. General managers, coaches, and players reaching out to him and saying he was available for a trade? What do you mean? The fact that even the most inside of insiders, Windhorst, other GMs, had no idea this was on the clock, that is the biggest what the heck. And I started going down a list of what the background is of the guy that traded Luka Doncic for Anthony Davis in a first-round draft pick. And it turns out that Nico Harrison is a longtime Nike employee who had LeBron James as one of his most important clients. That, to me, smelled real fishy. Real fishy. Now, as I laid out in the DA deep dive from earlier in the day, Nico Harrison spent 19 years at Nike handling the basketball side of marketing and the basketball client list. And that's, of course, a massive part of Nike's brand. And that means that he developed relationships with many, many players and certainly people around the NBA, which is how you jump from sneaker executive to basketball general manager. Now, I'm not here to say that that's somehow criminal, because there's plenty of basketball executives, decision makers, agents, what have you, that have elevated through the ranks of personnel departments to now kind of control the league, right? This has happened multiple places. The Knicks are one of those. The Lakers have been one of those. Wherever LeBron is gone, he's had his group of non-traditional basketball personnel people kind of around him helping make decisions. So that's not unique that Nico Harrison got this job. What is unique is that Nico Harrison basically automatically started to elevate all of the guys that he ever worked with, okay? First of all, he moved to Dallas for this job many moons ago, okay? So he has roots in Dallas, and certainly that helps becoming the general manager of the Dallas Mavericks. One of his clients was Jason Kidd. The moment that he's hired to be the GM of the Mavericks, Jason Kidd is named the head coach. One of his clients was Michael Finley, back when Finley played for the Mavericks. One of his clients was Dirk Nowitzki, when Nowitzki was a star for the Mavericks. He steps into this position of power. Michael Finley becomes his right-hand man, his second lieutenant, okay? Now you have a guy who has deep Nike roots and whose most significant client was LeBron James, obviously. Now, he began in the early 2000s. Michael had retired. Kobe was massive. And then LeBron carried the baton after that. It seems just a little bit strange that you don't open up the bidding to the rest of the NBA and instead one team that happens to be LeBron James's team. I don't know why the Mavericks felt like he was dispensable. That seems crazy to me at 25 years old, after just a couple of months ago going to the NBA Finals. But for some reason, they did. For some reason, the Mavericks felt like this was unfeasible in some way, shape, or form. And when they did, the ownership clearly had an edict. Hey, you got to get rid of Luka, right? This does not feel like this would be something a general manager would do and have to convince his owners of. It seems like they'd have to be in cahoots because obviously your GM's head is on the line with this could be a generational mistake. This could be an all-time bad trade. So you gotta have the support of your owners. But when you do have the support of your owners to make this trade, and you do it under cover of secrecy on a Saturday night when nobody in the league knew that Luka was available, makes you wonder why he went there. And that makes it feel as though the Mavericks had wanted to wash their hands of Luka for some reason, okay? But why he went to the Lakers, that's the real fishy part. Now, why did they want him in Dallas anyway? That's also a questionable decision. But why he got shoveled to the Lakers, that's one that we will wonder for a long time. It's a home run for the Lakers because clearly it gives LeBron an elite scorer next to him as LeBron fades out. And then also it gives the Lakers face the franchise in Los Angeles, Hollywood, stardom, etc. after LeBron does end up walking away. For the Mavericks, it gives them a temporary window to win a championship. It's as long as Anthony Davis can stay healthy. He's having a very good season this year, obviously. He's 32. So you're talking about this year, maybe next year. You're teaming him up also with a guy in Kyrie Irving who is volatile at best. So, again, how long is your window? It just seems insane to have traded Luka Doncic at this point in his career and get nothing back besides 32-year-old AD and a draft pick. It seems absolutely insane. And I could only explain it as some insider trading going on between sneaker people that run the NBA. So we go into Super Bowl week, and the jumping off point is a mega blockbuster for the NBA before the trade deadline. But of course, Super Bowl 59 is here. And last week we had my friend Nick Wright, who was a Chiefs fan growing up in Kansas City and now is a very talented and skilled opinionist and show host for FS1. And now we talk about how the Chiefs ended up becoming America's villain somehow. My next guest was my executive producer back between 2003 and 2007 when I worked at 610 Sports in Kansas City. We rose up the ranks together. He was my producer when I was named the evening show host in September of 2003. We ended up becoming Morning Drive as a tandem together and having some absolutely lights out, amazing years doing Morning Drive in Kansas City. He then moved on to become the sideline reporter for the Kansas City Chiefs and was also a huge part of Bob Fesco's morning show on 610 Sports in Kansas City as well. A couple of iterations after my morning show there for a number of years also. So he is heading down to New Orleans coming up this week for yet another Super Bowl run with the Chiefs. My friend Josh Klingler joins us here on the show. Our next guest is the sideline reporter for the Chiefs radio network. But more importantly, he was the executive producer of the DA show between 2003 and 2007 on 610 Sports in Kansas City. My good friend, Josh Klingler. Kling, how are you?
Terrific, DA. How about yourself?
Well, I'm great. I mean, we are just in some type of alternate universe. When you and I worked together for 5 years, the biggest question was, do the Chiefs have a middle-of-the-road defense so that maybe they can win a playoff game? And when will the Chiefs ever have a real quarterback? Now, the Chiefs have been in 5 freaking Super Bowls since 2019. So I'm not sure which dimension we've now entered.
It is weird. I, do interviews around the country. I said, I don't understand. This is really easy. You hire the greatest coach you can find at the time. You draft a generational quarterback. You have a Hall of Fame tight end and probably now a Hall of Fame defensive lineman. And then they're the hardest workers on your team. And then you build with a front office that's just seemingly struck on just about everything that they've taken a swing at. And then you get, a team that's friendly with you that'll make a bunch of trades like Buffalo has and put you in a great position to get everything you've wanted and desired. I don't know how this isn't a plan that everybody's trying to follow. It's just been kind of unreal. And then now we've entered the phase, I think, where it's kind of turned over a little bit, and yet they've been able to sustain like all the things, the barriers that go up around the NFL now. When you pay your quarterback, when you have to price out some other skill guys, they've just kind of bulldozed through it, figured out other ways, and here they are again. It's been a pretty ridiculous run that, you never say it has no chance to slow down, but they have hit on a lot of correct things over the last few years. And seemingly, if it starts at the top with Mahomes and Andy Reid, you can just kind of fill in pieces around it. And it seemingly has worked.
That's why Chiefs fatigue is such a remarkable thing here, because I don't think Chiefs fatigue was really a thing up until maybe the end of last season. Certainly when Mahomes got there in 2019, there's no Chiefs fatigue because the Chiefs were just a team that it didn't even matter when they made the playoffs because you knew they weren't going to make a championship run. Then he gets there. He's the hot new thing in 2019, 2018. They lose the AFC Championship game. They are the feel-good story of 2019 because they finally break through and win the Super Bowl. They lose in 2020. They lose to the Bengals in 2021. 2022 is a bit of a redemption with the Eagles. And then maybe by the end of last year, fatigue is setting in. Now, certainly there is. But how mind-blowing is it that the idea that America might not like the Chiefs because they win too many Super Bowls, considering where you were as a Chiefs fan 20 years ago?
Well, I think what's kind of strange about this one, I really thought that the history of this season and the potential to have something done that's never been done before would outweigh the fatigue. Like there would be enough people that said, you know what, I've never seen a three-peat. I'll probably never see a three-peat again. Wouldn't this be an entertaining ride? And I think we felt that for much of the way it is not for anyone outside of Kansas City, that it's been enough's enough. This season has been truly remarkable if you step back and look at it, because it probably should have been a season for the Chiefs of discussing injuries. They lost Hollywood Brown before the season started. They lost Rashee Rice along the way. They never still haven't figured out left tackle. They had injuries on defense too that were very, very costly in their secondary, and kind of just overcame them, got people back at the tail end of the season, lost Isiah Pacheco too. So, I mean, they lost a lot of pieces that would really dismantle a team, and they just, again, kind of just blew through it, added some pieces along the way, and found themselves as the number 1 seed. But I get it. It makes sense. And plus, I think everybody's still fresh off the Patriots. I mean, really, the Patriots wore down a lot of people in a lot of markets, right, for a lot of years. And I think that that's residual kind of scar tissue as well. Like, just weather this thing. I don't know that people would be happier if there's parity every year and there was a different team winning every season. We'd probably be having a different discussion. I just really thought this year would be about, hey, might not like the Chiefs, but this is a three-peat and it's never been done. Let's see if this thing can happen in our lifetime.
That's a very good point. Residual fatigue over the Patriots, and now there's another dynasty just buttressed right up against the Patriots dynasty. When did you start feeling like America was rooting against the Chiefs? Was it last year? Was it this year? Was it this postseason run?
I think as the string of games started to happen where they had weird things happen to win games, call it luck, call it fortune, whatever. I think it kind of started to build on one another. And when they're winning close games in different fashions, and then you started hearing the rigged in the script and they're getting calls. I think it's as the season kind of built this year, I felt it kind of more and more. Probably not last season. I think, I think last year was, there were more people probably appreciative of the run last year because last year's run was kind of strange. They didn't really figure things out until the tail end of the season, and they didn't really look like a Super Bowl team for, the last back half of the season, and then suddenly kind of turned it on in the playoffs. So I think that wasn't a given this year. At the podium last year at the Super Bowl, they're pretty much talking about going for 3. So I think it probably was in the back of people's minds right then, like, oh, really? We're going to deal with this again. They don't plan to go away. And then as the season went on, when they're winning all kinds of silly ways in every single way, shape, or form, you kind of started hearing every fan base chirping about, are they getting breaks? Are they getting calls? And why are they so lucky? Hey, luck factors into it, but they're also a team that just they have tremendous resolve, and they figure things out, and they never get, that classic, they never get backed into a corner and seemingly panic. And so they've done a fantastic job of being a chameleon and kind of figuring out how to get out of trouble more often than not. But yeah, it's made people mad along the way. And certainly as we've gotten here, I don't know if the Eagles are all that likable, so maybe that helps a little bit, because I feel like that there's enough people that are always kind of mad at the Eagles for whatever reason. Certainly had Washington been here, I don't think anybody would have been rooting for the Chiefs.
Remember, the Cowboys were so easily hateable in the 90s because they were loud and brash, and they were America's team, and Jimmy and Michael, and it was just like so easy to dislike them, Barry Switzer and Jerry Jones. Then the Patriots obviously become unlikable because they're from a city in Boston that's winning everything. There's Spygate, Deflategate, etc. Isn't it so weird for Kansas City as a city to don the villain's uniform? Because it's just like nobody ever had maybe an opinion of the city of Kansas City or
right.
Chiefs fans up until this. And now suddenly it's like people dislike Kansas City. And it's such a pleasant, friendly, great football town. It's such a weird role for Kansas City to be playing.
Yeah, and I'm not sure I'm super comfortable in it either. I mean, I think everybody's a little bit on guard as a city kind of right now that, everything's happening. Certainly the AFC Championship game and all the calls Buffalo didn't get, blah, 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 have fostered into kind of a bunker in mentality, or everybody's kind of ready to fight. Like, really, you gonna take us on again? But in terms of just the team, Mahomes is very likable. He's garnered respect from opponents all over the place, seemingly will trash talk at times, but it's seemingly in a competition mode that people kind of respect. Travis Kelce's never been unlikable. Certainly he's got one of the bigger Q ratings around the NFL, right? Andy Reid's just looked at as, the jovial dad. There's not a lot of like hateable characters on this team either. So, and I don't want to say they've embraced the villain role. I know Mahomes kind of said that kind of leading up to the Super Bowl. They haven't done that, but I think they're like, okay, well, what can we use as kind of fuel? And I guess this is it, because seemingly they have turned into that, but I don't think they're very, very good at it. I don't think they will be very good at it. There's not the makeup, at least at the top. I mean, there could always be, maybe ancillary players that are villainous, but you look at Mahomes and Kelce, and Chris Jones is the closest one to being a nasty defensive lineman at times, but even he's not in that mode. So it's an uncomfortable villain, but I think that they've kind of embraced the fact that they've been pushed there. I think that they consider it a sign of respect.
Would you say that this matchup against the Eagles is a tougher one for the Chiefs than they faced 2 years ago in 2022?
I don't know. I thought that Eagles team was really good in 2022, and they had the Chiefs on the ropes for a good portion of that game. I thought that team was more solid top to bottom. Now, does Saquon Barkley present a scary element in how hot he's playing, NBA Jam football like, right? So I think that definitely presents a challenge. No disrespect to the NFC, but I think getting through the AFC has been the main source of, man, this is going to be tough. The Baltimores and the Buffaloes every year, Cincinnati for a stretch. I think Buffalo is looked at kind of almost every year now as the toughest game on the schedule. It certainly was twice. And you can't take things lightly moving on to the next level and just say, I got by Buffalo and can win this one. But I think with a couple weeks to prepare and certainly the most definitive vision now, because it's not been about getting back to the Super Bowl. And I know that sounds cliche, but I mean, they frankly said, we want to win 3 in a row, and you can only win 3 in a row if you win the final game. Right. So whatever pressure they had pushed aside by discussing the going for a three-peat early has got to be picking up over the next week, because now it's real and there is no other answer other than going and winning this game to solidify their history.
Are they particularly motivated because people think that the fix is in is a small portion, but that the refs give them the benefit of the doubt? Are they motivated by that?
I don't know. I think they are motivated by being a part of history. And certainly I think Mahomes wants this to be, I mean, Brady can't do it, right? Brady might have the total on him when it's all said and done. Very well could. But Mahomes, Kelce specifically, Mahomes, Kelce, and Jones are the three engines of this team. I'm not discounting, there's plenty of other guys that contributed to wins, a lot of guys that contributed to wins, but those are the three that lead each and every day. They take their marching orders from those three. They follow those three anywhere. And it's about legacy, and it's about doing something no one has ever done before. So can that be kind of thrown on top of things that there's a little bit of doubt and there's a little bit of questions? Maybe so, but I think they're simply motivated by no one's done this and we'd like to do it and forever be remembered around the NFL.
Last week, we had Nick Wright join us on the show. And of course, Nick is a Kansas City native and worked alongside both of us at 610 Sports. Then he stayed and I left, and he's built an amazing career. And we had a bunch of Kansas City listeners watch that show last week on YouTube. And a couple of them suggested to bring back Stormbot. Now, Stormbot was our weather robot back in the day. And I told the story about how when we got promoted to mornings, the executive edict was, we need you to do traffic and weather. And
right.
Both you and I looked at each other like, are you kidding me? We're doing traffic and weather on a sports radio show. And so because both you and I have a really good subversive sense of humor, especially when it comes to the suits, we said, okay, we'll give you your traffic and weather. We'll make a robot. Now, how did we get to our robot was going to have a British accent?
I don't. That's a very well. We were stealing a program because we didn't have a budget, so we were finding a program on the internet that would do voices.
Right.
Seemingly we were 15, 20 years behind. Like you could find that you trip over that these days, right? But at that particular time, there was, as far as we know, one program. It was a
AT&T.
beta tester. It had you couldn't buy it, but there wasn't one you could buy, and we didn't have any money anyway. And so it had probably 3 voices, and I think we sampled the various voices, and in a probably late night conversation, we said, oh, the British one sounds like, why wouldn't we? We're forced to do this anyway. Let's have a British accented robot in Kansas City. I mean, why wouldn't you?
And then Stormbot 3000 went from just giving us the weather to then having really opinionated sports takes, pointed sports commentary. And then we built a whole narrative around him where he had a girlfriend, Stormbody. He ended up really hating working on our show. He just wanted to retire to the Caribbean, ultimately did so. Do you oftentimes get calls for bringing back Stormbot? And is this something, now that you've left 610 Sports Radio as well, is that something that you and I should perhaps partner on?
I don't know if anybody would find it as funny as we did still. I mean, we had so many hours of nonsensical dialogue. What I don't want to call it writing, because it really wasn't writing, but there was way too many storylines, and we probably spent way too much time on that. Probably could have focused on other parts of the show that maybe could have used a little pick me up. But it felt like it was our kind of, you said, kind of stick it to the suits a little bit, and our only way of the little man getting after the big man, and then it just took on a life of its own. It was just nonsensical. It was fantastic. He was then he got mad and grouchy all the time. He was a very angry British robot, which I don't know how that became a thing, but it's I don't know where any of the parts are anymore. He was recycled a long time ago. Maybe he's been reincarnated somewhere else. I don't know. Everything gets a reboot, so maybe. Maybe. But again, I don't think anyone outside of the two of us would find as much humor and pleasure in it as you and I would. So I don't know. It'd probably be only for us.
That's true. Well, it's nice that our legacy lives on through that. Of all the things that we did,
of all the real things we did, maybe real let's say real productive sports talk things that we did. None of that is remembered.
In our defense, though, I mean, the Chiefs were a perennial 9-7 team, and the Royals were a perennial 106 loss team. So we didn't have a ton to work with there.
Correct. There was a lot of mocking of the local teams, and you and I trying to duck being in trouble for taking shots at the local teams.
I mean, is this not just an amazing alternate universe where we used to be embroiled in some type of battle with Carl Peterson because we were too critical of the Chiefs? And one time Herm Edwards wanted to fight me on the practice field because I was too critical of the Chiefs. And the Royals wanted to distance themselves from us because we were too critical of the Royals. And today, Kansas City is the city of champions. All they do is win. And you're going for a three-peat? Like this, you've gone to so many Super Bowls. You're like, you know what? I'll show up when I show up. I mean, this is so outrageous.
Yeah, no, it's gotten supremely arrogant because around here we refer to it like, which one was that? Which Super Bowl was that? Was that the and then by the city, it's not even by like the opponent. It's like, was that the Miami one or the Tampa one or was that the Vegas one? Oh, the Vegas one. Yeah, remember the Vegas one? I mean, it's gotten kind of sick. It really has. I can understand why people are fatigued with it, but it has been a remarkable run, and each story has had its own kind of version, and this one's kind of been no different. This is the first one that I don't want to say Kansas City's gotten arrogant, but maybe a little bit. Like this felt like the first season to me, DA, where it was if people could fast forward to the playoffs, they might have taken it. Like other times there was a road to it. This one felt like just get to the playoffs and see if they can win 3 in a row. And so I think that made this one a tad bit different. The players certainly didn't take it that way, but I think a portion of the fan base was just, hey, let's get to the end and see what the end of this particular story is, and maybe didn't enjoy the regular season as much as they had. Certainly sold, I think, more home tickets than they have in recent years. There's a lot more road teams that kind of showed up in Kansas City with decent sized fan bases, because I think people were like, you know what, I've spent a lot of money on this team. I'll take some raised ticket prices and get some of my money back. But then the postseason, the 2 home games, they really locked down the stadium and got back to kind of what we're used to seeing. But I think there's a number of fans going, let's just get through the playoffs and see how the story unfolds.
And the truest sign of a dynasty is when fans are going, I'll sell my AFC Championship game tickets because I got to see if we make the Super Bowl. Because that's the only thing that really matters these days. Do we go to the Super Bowl or not? Because I've seen 7 AFC Championship games in a row. Yeah. You could understand why ticket prices, it was way higher to get into Philly. It was like twice as high to get into Philly than it was to get into Kansas City. Because 7 in a row, you've been to 4 or 5 of them, most of those people in that stadium.
But they did hold it down pretty good. I mean, Buffalo did get Mafia in there to buy, I don't know, a few thousand tickets. Any other team probably wouldn't have got through even that much. But you also have to sell a whole bunch of AFC Championship tickets to add up to a Super Bowl ticket these days. So that's what kind of crazy. That's the crazy part of this thing too, is like there are a lot of Chiefs fans that have gone to a bunch of Super Bowls. I don't have that kind of scratch.
Exactly. One taps you out. If you've been to 2 or 3, you're like, hey, and if you've been to 2 or 3, you've seen them win at least one of them or 2 of them. So yeah. Josh Klingler joining us, former executive producer of the DA Show on 610 Sports in Kansas City, now sideline reporter for the Chiefs Radio Network. All right, Kling, I'll see you down in New Orleans. Okay, buddy? Thank you.
Rack me. I'm out.
Amazing to have Josh drop on by the show and to remember Stormbot. Amazing. One of my great accomplishments of all time, getting a fake British weather robot onto the air in drive time. That was good times in drive time. All right, speaking of Super Bowl 59, I'm going to be heading down there, of course. I'm headed down there as we speak right now. So thanks, Watch the Aliens, for chatting away as we do this. I'm in the air, presumably heading down to New Orleans, unless I was caught in some type of massive delay. Knock on wood at Newark Airport. All week long, I'm going to be at Radio Row, so I think it's open to the public. If it is, and you're going down to Super Bowl, I would love to see you there. Stop on by the New Orleans Convention Center and say hello. I'll be on the air bright and early in the mornings, and then also I'll be jumping around doing some show appearances this there everywhere, including on NFL radio as well, where I'm going to be hosting on Monday and Tuesday, doing some spot starts, if you will, for Super Bowl Radio, a pop-up channel for Sirius XM also. So I'll be all over Radio Row this week. We also have Babs and Louie, my cohorts in the morning, getting thrown through a folding table because they bet on the Jets winning the AFC East and I bet on the Bills. Guess who won that bet by October? So that's going to be awesome. Also, plenty of fun and games that I'm going to bring you right here on this YouTube channel. So make sure you are subscribed. That way, throughout the week, you'll know if we go live, when we have new footage up, and I'll be posting a bunch of stuff on social media as well from my time in New Orleans, including some great spots that I hope to eat at. One of the things I'm most excited about, getting back to a full week of Radio Row, which I haven't done in many years. In fact, it was the 2019 Super Bowl before pandemic, my last full Super Bowl Radio Row, which has been a long time because after that was the pandemic Super Bowl when there wasn't really a Radio Row. The following year in 2021 was the LA Super Bowl. So the bosses thought, too early of a time change. The following year was Arizona, in which we did a Radio Faux, the fake Radio Row, if you remember correctly. There was an Arizona bench. And then last year, we did a couple of days at the end of the week in Las Vegas, but this year we're going full hog, whole hog. So I'm very excited about that. This game itself is, I think, most interesting due simply to history, due simply to a team trying to accomplish something that has never been accomplished before in the Super Bowl era. The last time a team won 3 straight championships was the Packers, which dovetailed between pre-Super Bowl and then after Super Bowl as well, with Super Bowls 1 and 2. So that's how long it's been. We're talking about 60 years since this has happened. And so that's front and center, the most interesting thing about this. I think also, though, the Saquon Barkley aspect, as I talked about last week, is absolutely fascinating. And then the other part of this is that the New England Patriots were the Chiefs before the Chiefs. And 2 teams got them, the New York Giants and the Philadelphia Eagles. And the Eagles, with Nick Foles, somehow pulled off the big upset in the Super Bowl in 2017. Wouldn't it be interesting if the Eagles stood in the way again of a dynasty and not only took out Tom Brady once upon a time, but then took out Patrick Mahomes this upon a time? That's a pretty extraordinary thing as well to have on the table. So that's exciting. I think also the 2 fan bases, you have 2 amazing football cities in Kansas City and Philadelphia. I love that. And the what ifs. Well, what if the Chiefs win this Super Bowl? Where do we place them all time? Are they the greatest football team ever? Better than the 72 Dolphins, the 85 Bears, and some of the others that we consider the all-time greatest single-season teams, or the greatest dynasty? If they are the first team ever to do three-peat, are they the greatest dynasty? The what ifs, if Nick Sirianni wins a Super Bowl, are we talking about Nick Sirianni being to 2, winning 1 as now an elite head coach in the NFL? Are we talking about Jalen Hurts now being a Super Bowl champion and that elevating him into a place that had been reserved for very few in the NFL, and Hurts was kind of the next level out of? Do we have to now put him in there, especially if he has a great game? And for the Philadelphia Eagles, a franchise that went from 1960 until 2017 without a championship, winning 2 in 7 years, what does that do for that city, that franchise, that brand, even if it is 2 different coaches and 2 different quarterbacks? Some pretty heady stuff going into Super Bowl 59, and I'm, of course, here for all of it. And if you have recommendations on eating, please send them along. Social media, always open at Damon Amendo. We'll wrap up tonight's show here with this, and we will go back to giving away a lot of free stuff next Watch DA that is live. Watch DA live is usually live because I got 2 boxes of stuff right now that I got to give away, some from Last Dive Bar. Also, I've got anniversary Miracle on Ice gear, or at least merch, collectibles that I want to give away on this show as well. That's going to be awesome because we're coming up, right, on how many years is this now? 45 years 45 years since the Miracle on Ice. So I got some cool stuff that got sent to me, and I want to send it to you guys. That's going to be cool. All right. So we will do that next time around when we are live. But tonight, I do want to end the show with a Little Mo laugh of the day, which becomes a Little Mo love of the day. If you guys know the story of Little Mo, you know that he was an enormous part of my show because of his laughter, because of his absolutely bright type of effervescent light that came out of him, his personality, his perseverance. He just was everything as he dealt with a lot of health issues, specifically childhood cancer, which ultimately took his life. Well, we have another young listener that enjoys the show that is going through a bit of a similar battle. Gianna is her name. She goes by G, and her father, Graham, reached out to me and said, hey, just want to let you know that we listen to you all the time. He was a listener to the show before I got to Sirius XM, but he wanted to reach out to me and said he loves the show and that he and G listen quite often. And, he just wanted to mention that the show helps brighten the day, brighten the mood, because Gianna was a perfectly healthy little girl. And then over the summer, unfortunately, they went in for a blood test. And back during the summer, they found out that there was a leukemia that Gianna, unfortunately, was diagnosed with. And so she's been battling this ever since the summer. Now, she's in good spirits. She's been obviously bedridden quite a bit. She's been in the hospital quite a bit, but she is a fighter, no doubt about it. And I've been in contact with her dad and sent her our well wishes here. And, he always tweets us as well when she's listening and when they're listening and things that made her laugh or him laugh, etc. So that always makes me feel good. But I said, hey, on behalf of the show, we want to send you something, okay? We want to make sure that Gianna is feeling taken care of, especially around the Super Bowl. And Gianna has become a big Chiefs fan. So this is one of the cool stories through Taylor Swift that Taylor has brought in young women across the world to football and made them football fans. And I don't know if Gianna was a football fan beforehand, but she roots for the Chiefs. I said, well, who is Gianna's favorite player? And he said, this is classic G. It ain't Patrick Mahomes. It's not Travis Kelce. She's a real sports fan. She loves Isiah Pacheco. Well, anybody that loves a hard-nosed running back, we got to send our love to as well. And so I said, you got it. So I dialed up what I thought was a really cool Isiah Pacheco shirt, and we sent it to her this week to get there in time for the Super Bowl. And look at how cool this shirt is. It's like black with the big Isaiah across the front. It's got Pacheco not only in uniform, but also his profile. I just think it's such a badass throwback 1990s-esque t-shirt. And so sent it to Gianna. It is on its way. She got the notification that it was on its way as I sent her a little note that went out when it was shipped. And she sent back a thank you, and she's very excited. Thank you so much with the heart emoji. And we wish you the very, very best, G. We love you very much. I know the love of Little Mo is going to come through all of us and to you. We're thinking of you. And at the very least, enjoy the shirt. Enjoy the Super Bowl. We'll be down there bringing you the coverage of New Orleans and Super Bowl 59 and thinking of you, obviously, as well. So I wanted to share that with all of you guys because I know that Mo meant a lot to everybody. And we got another one that we can hold tight and root for and make sure that she's feeling the love as well. So, G, we got your back. Okay? We got your back. And hopefully Isiah Pacheco runs for 145 yards and 2 touchdowns. And that T-shirt is a good luck charm for you. Okay? All right. That's going to do it for us tonight here on the show. Hey, thanks, everybody, for the Watch DA pseudo live. We'll do the Watch DA as live. I think tonight was that edition, the description of today's show. Thanks, everybody. When I land, I'll let you know. I'll hit you up on social media, and we will do a full week of coverage, Monday through Sunday. I'm going to be down there in New Orleans for Super Bowl 59. Thanks to executive producer Aiden Hatton. I'm DA, Damon Amendolara. Be good. Be good to one another. I'll see you in New Orleans. The digital mothership disconnects.